Okay, so welcome everybody to tasting number 116. We keep moving here with our tastings. It's pretty wild. I can't imagine where we're going to be this time next year. It seems like we're doing a lot of tastings every month. So all good, all fun, surrounded by whiskey again here in the shop, which is kind of nice. To do a tasting around bottles like this. But tonight is going to be really fun. We're going to be focusing on some really special bottles of rye. We've been doing a lot of rye in the last couple of years, really kind of since COVID took hold. It seems like that was around the time where rye really started to have a resurgence again. You know, we've always had good ryes in the United States, but everybody's been focused on bourbon. But just in the last couple of years, I guess you would call it kind of a renaissance of rye, because rye was one of the initial spirits that was made here in the United States, even before bourbon, because corn wasn't something that people were used to who first came to the United States. That was something that we acquired and grew to love, but rye was really one of the first spirits that, you know, we had in kind of the colonies. And actually the first two whiskeys that we're doing tonight actually come out of Maryland, and kind of celebrate some of that heritage and going back to some of the roots. But we're gonna do some really fun bottles tonight. I have not tasted really any of these, so I'm very excited to try these with everybody tonight. I really look forward to these tastings, especially, you know, these bottles were acquired over the past year or so on my travels mostly. One is from the shop, the rest are really from outside of the area. I'll talk about the second one when we get to it, but all of these came from special places. So we do have a scorecard online if you do feel like scoring. It's a point system. You can kind of figure it out. We do have scorecards here for those people in person. We do encourage you to kind of keep notes and keep track of all of these whiskeys. Unfortunately, none of these are available except for the last one we're tasting tonight. So if you like them, just enjoy them now. And that's kind of how we're going to go tonight, which is fine, and that's fun and great. That's what these tastings are all about, right? So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We've done quite a bit with Sagamore over the last couple of years. Many of you know Sagamore Spirits out of Baltimore, Maryland. We had Brian Tracy online with us a couple of years ago. He walked us through the history of Sagamore Spirit, and we tasted a number of expressions. And they're really doing some fun things in Maryland. They're doing a lot of ryes that are finished in different types of barrels. There's apple brandy, there's rum, you name it. They're really experimenting a lot with different styles of finishings, which we love as a club. And then they're also just growing, you know, they're getting older. So this first bottle is a limited edition. It's not available anymore. I don't really know, I couldn't figure it out how many bottles were actually released. I couldn't find it online. But this was their 5th anniversary release. And David Rose, who's one of the brand ambassadors for Sagamore Spirit, actually really big brand ambassador. He's all over the Northeast all the time. He was here in Saratoga for the horse sales. We've seen him around quite a bit. But he messaged me and said, hey, this 5th anniversary bottle is coming out. You might want to grab one. So I purchased one online and he picked it up for me. And when he came up to town, I think it was a while ago now, like a few months ago, he brought the bottle with him. So really kind of fun to be able to try this. This is the true Sagamore Spirit rye. So what they do at this distillery is they actually use 2 different mash bills. One of them is a very high rye mash bill, and the other one is a low rye mash bill, and it's actually quite low. I believe it was 55%, and then quite high on the corn. So it's a combination of two mash bills, but this is all of their own spirit. This comes in at 103 proof, so 51.5% ABV. All of these start at 51 and go up. So have water available. You know, a lot of you guys are at home, you're good to go. But for those of you who are here, drink water. I have more bottles of water if you run out. So these are all high proof, and you might also want a dropper to add water to some of these too, to try it with water. But this is their bottling. It's a special, it says on the top here, 5th anniversary. Kind of a cool label. This is bottle number 211, and it is batch 1, and this is 5 years old. So this is really the oldest release from their distillery to date. And with that, I just want to say cheers, and let's enjoy this tasting. If you have any notes or questions, write in the chat room or just speak up, and we'll go forward with that.
Even if you weren't inviting me to have a question, this is made in Maryland, but the next one is a Maryland style.
That's right.
Is this a Maryland style? Is this a Pennsylvania style? Is this their own style?
Yeah, so Sagamore Spirit is really trying to create or recreate what was the style in Maryland, which you know, wasn't the extremely high, or it was kind of a mix of mashes. So they did go back and look at you know, recipes from early on and tried their best to recreate. All the grains are from Maryland, so this is truly a Maryland expression. You know, this is not sourced from outside of Maryland, which is pretty cool. So, you know, we have Kentucky ryes, we have high rye mash bills in Kentucky. You know, Maryland, I'm sure also had high rye mash bills back in the day, but Sagamore did something different where they're adding in this lower rye mash bill. And, you know, I think they're trying to recreate some of the old styles that were coming out of Maryland back then. When you go to the distillery, they have a whole history that you can go through, and it's all on screens, let you touch screens, and you can go back and see all of the old distilleries that were really all in that area, right where Sagamore is. So it's pretty great. They also took over a horse farm and are converting some of that into growing their grains as well.
Character, huh? Telling you about his
big bullies in the pack tonight.
No, I know he definitely is gonna. What, the 1-star rating that he just said?
He was looking ahead to after shift for me. Looks like Jerry Garcia had Grateful Dead playing.
Jimmy spelled J-I-M-I.
Hi, I thought the nose was really wonderful, very floral and just out there. It's just like, just hit me. It's like, wow, it's really, really great smell. Just.
It's got quite the mouthfeel too.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely mouth coating. Definitely has a lot of that grain flavor in it as well.
Get to it, boy. Come
on. What ABV do they bottle this at, Charles?
So it's 103 proof.
Shame.
It is a batch, so it's not a single barrel. This is batch 1, so this is their first 5th anniversary. I don't know how many batches, but
yeah, 2nd, 5th anniversary plus 1.
Charles, what was the proof on the first one again? The Sagamore?
That's what we're doing. 103. Yeah. So on the back of the bottle, I'll read what it says here. We have a saying at the distillery: the best time to make a 5-year-old whiskey was 5 years ago. So we did. In April 2017, we barreled the first batches of our rye distillate from our 40-foot copper still. Over the course of 5 years, we checked in on the aging process, but there are no shortcuts on the path to making exceptional whiskey. The team is proud to share this 5-year-old whiskey, the first of our anniversary releases. It's a culmination of patience, passion, and commitment to revitalizing a great Maryland industry. So I like it. I think it's really good.
A little bitter,
I
something for
like
me.
it too.
I love the nose, and I think you really, hit it on the nose with that. Hardy, hardy, hard. Do I smell carrots? That's interesting. Holly smells carrots.
I find it vegetal on the nose.
I would agree.
I would agree with vegetal.
Yes.
The greens from the carrot, that's what I think.
Yeah, there's.
I think that's just from your Australia Vegemite sandwiches.
It's not actually.
I do eat a lot of pickled vegetables. It's very Scottish.
Yeah, there's some mint. Vince just mentioned mint.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
guess that floral, vegetal,
Maybe,
herbal.
it'd be fun if you guys don't finish your first, I don't know, maybe some of you have, but you can compare the Sagamore to the second one. I don't know. I mean, they're going to be very different, but they're both, kind of this Maryland thing. So we are starting with a Maryland kind of exploration.
So keep it in the same, put it in the same.
40-foot still, their column still is called the penny. They have a small pot still, which is called Edgar Allan pot still.
Nice. All right, you guys good with the Sagamore? Should we keep moving? Yeah, all right. Okay, so this next bottle, so the Sagamore was around, I think it was around $80 with tax and all, something like that. So not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. Now this next bottle is quite expensive. This one, Dave, I'm trying to look up what I paid you for it. Like $240 or something like that, I think.
240.
Yeah.
Seal box had it for 280.
Yeah. So Dave Tobias, who lives in the Maryland area, was gracious to reach out, just like David Rose did from Sagamore, and said he had access to getting a special bottle for the club. So keep that in mind if you're ever out and about and you see a special bottle, and maybe it's even too expensive for you to buy, but maybe the club would love to try it. So if you are in a place with something special, just text me, reach out, and maybe we'll buy it for the club and try it out. So this one sold out extremely quickly. I know Sealbox sold out like less than a minute or something. And Dave was able to get a couple of bottles. I think he kept one for himself, but we have one for the club. This is called Sherbrook. So this is kind of a new, I guess, release, if you want to call it. It's bottled by Henry M. Wright and Company out of Baltimore. I did a little bit of reading on this, but there is some notes on the back too. But this is a 14-year rye, 12 years at MGP. So this is actually a sourced rye, but then the final 2 years are aged in Maryland. So it's really, I mean, they call it Maryland style, but it's truly an MGP style aged a couple of years in Maryland. We have our Traverse City barrel, our bourbon, and same kind of concept. It comes from MGP, but the last year it's aged in Traverse City, so they get to call it, Michigan style bourbon, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But this is a 95.5 mash bill. So high rye mash bill. It says unfiltered straight rye whiskey. This is batch number 3. Bottle number 536 out of 1,471. This is 54.9%. So 109.7 proof. And then let's see here, Maryland Heritage Series. American whiskey. Boy, this is really hard to read. Okay. Oh, okay. It's really small cursive. If you want to read that, you can go. Good luck. All right. So American whiskey evolved regionally in the early days. In the South, corn grew plentifully, leading to the creations of bourbon. In the North, famous, oh goodness, no, farmers, God, grew rye, leading to a distinct style known as Maryland Rye Whiskey. The demand was great for this bold and spicy whiskey, and by the early 1900s, there were over 50 distilleries operating in Maryland with an output that rivaled that of Kentucky. This Maryland Heritage Series pays homage to many of the great Maryland distilleries and its storied past. So what's really cool about this is that it's a very old rye. I think that's the bottom line here. Take the Maryland part even out of the equation in a way. This is a really old MGP rye. We don't get to try really old MGP ryes too often. So
Charles, do you know if it was aged in conditioned rick house?
It's really good.
it's very tasty.
It's everything I like about rye. It's got like, it hits all the rye spots, right?
So MGP will age this in barrels in its warehouses and then sell them?
Yep. Yep, and I mean, as you can tell, this is not a cheap bottle. So they're older barrels, they're 12-year barrels, are probably quite expensive. You know, but they're pretty rare too. It's they don't have a lot of stock that,
The second.
you know, gets to 12 years.
This is very excellent.
Is there, because it's MGP, there's no details about the like how it's, what it's barreled in, or
Just
Yeah,
all it
yeah,
says
those
on the
things.
back, it says aged in new charred oak barrels.
okay. And they didn't rebarrel it in Maryland, right? They just took the MGP barrels and moved
Probably
them.
just sat in Maryland. Yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't rebarrel it. Yeah. It's beautiful though. Wow.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Wow. That's good. What's that?
Is Western a balcony?
Western Reserve?
Yeah.
No.
Your balconies? No, that'd be crazy. That would be right. Okay. So I have a 4-year.
Wow. Yeah, this is really good.
Sample coming from Texas.
This is quite different from the Sagamore, isn't it?
I'm like, is it balcones? She goes, I can't tell you.
Yeah, I mean by comparison, the Sagamore to me now tastes more like a bourbon than a rye. Like this to me is more rye. It has all
Yeah,
the
the
earthy spice notes.
The nose has a lot more of the corn sweetness on the Sagamore.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure.
This is almost austere, you know,
Yeah.
it's all the rye notes, but
It's
very
it's a serious rye.
It is.
Yeah.
This is labeled batch 3. They actually did 2 separate bottlings under different labels, but it's all done by 2 liquor store owners in the area, along with the seal box. And the other 2 bottles, I wasn't in town, so I couldn't go out at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, go stand in line until the store opened. I posted a picture of it, I think, up in the club page.
Dave, we
My
expect you.
line for this one.
Dave, we expect you to do these things. So
I understand. It's a responsibility.
you slipped a little there.
It's not like we're asking you to get out there at 5.
I know.
They're gonna do sets of all 3 bottles coming out in the next month or 2 or 3. I don't have any idea what they're gonna cost, but
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll buy one.
Yeah. A set?
Two. Yeah, all three of them.
Wow. That's really, really good. I truly hope it's not all downhill from here.
I thought you were finishing with those, honestly, but I guess not.
We brought the hills in the background if anybody needs some.
Yeah. Who decided to put this one second?
I wanted to be able to taste it before our palates were smashed.
What's the ABV on this, Charles?
54.9. You know, I mean, it's one of those things. It's okay to taste some of the best early on. There's nothing wrong with that.
Because then I don't doubt myself at the end going, I was just drunk and gave this thing a 93.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like so Art just said, you know, by the time, if we do the best for last, then you have no idea what you're tasting sometimes. So, you know.
That's fantastic.
And it fit the Maryland profile, and it also fit the ABV scale. So there you go. All right, I gotta grab these other bottles.
Yeah, it's not as long.
Since
Okay.
these are sold out, I'm curious, Charles or Dave, do you know what these are going for secondary market?
I have not looked. I'm sure
I,
some
I,
are.
I have not seen, but I know the earlier one, the first one was $200. The second one was $225. And I've heard that they are going in the $400 plus range.
Yeah.
And that's just like right after, and I'm sure there are more now.
Mhm.
But they're still holding some back for the 3-bottle sets and for, special deals, rewards. I'm not sure what else. But I literally live about 10 to 15 minutes from this one liquor store that happened to be involved in it, which is how I found out about it.
Well, thank you, Dave. That was a very special treat. We're very grateful to taste that. All right, so we're going to keep moving here. Again, you can always go back to these. You don't need to finish them all right away. You can play around and go back and forth. But I'm going to keep going. We have 5 more great rye whiskeys to come here. So the next bottle, and then I'm going to slow it down a little bit here as we get into the next one. I don't have any videos tonight or any slides. We're just going to kind of drink tonight, if that's okay. This next bottle, I was in Kentucky in May, and I had a group that I took to Peerless. It's a great distillery to visit. If you haven't been there, you need to go do the tour. If you're in Louisville, it's right in downtown Louisville. Really good people. They do a really good tour. And then they have a really fun tasting at the end where you get to taste some of their regular core offerings. And then they have a few different single barrels, both rye and bourbon, that you can taste. And then they have those for sale, of course. It all works together in some way or another. But I wasn't planning on buying a single barrel rye. I typically was looking for their bourbons. Their single barrel bourbons are harder to find. And so I was thinking, I'll taste these and I'll pick one of the 2 bourbons that they had available. But then I tasted the ryes that they had as well. And this one just stood out to me so much. Now I haven't tasted it since I was there. So I'm really excited to taste it again. And I hope it tastes just as good as I remember. But this one they all give their single barrels names. And then this one is called Vint-Aged, but it's Vint-Aged. I don't know why they put a hyphen in between. A single barrel selection called Sangria. with natural notes of white fruit, sweet oak, and citrus zest. This is 55.55%, so 111.1 proof. There is no age statement, so I'm not sure how old this one was. But I remember tasting this and going, oh my God, I need to get a bottle of this for the club. So hopefully it still holds its weight.
The Vint call out is probably because they named it after a wine drink.
Yeah.
Is it's not wine barrel age though, is it?
Yeah.
No, not at all. No, these are all just straight single barrels. New charred American oak.
It's a little spicier.
The variability between the three whiskeys, like nose to palate in a row, has been unbelievable. It just shows the versatility in the spirit. Right? It's like, it's crazy how these are all rye and they're so different.
We have a mash bill on this one.
I've avoided Peerless because of the cost to age, but this tastes really good.
Yeah, let me look. Art.
A little spicier.
I get a little like almost. Wow, it's almost like a graham cracker note to it. Or
I was going to say the same thing. Right in the front of the palate.
yeah, actually, I'm getting it a little below the tongue. So the mash bill is not disclosed. Yeah, they don't give the percentages.
I bet it's high.
Yeah, I don't know. They really don't say. I do remember that about them. They're a little bit secretive of their process.
The palate and the nose don't match for me, which is interesting. Like the nose is much lighter and sweeter than it tastes. Like it has the spicy rye, graham crackery, more earthy notes, but it's, you know, peaches and fruit and much lighter nose wise, which is interesting.
Well, they
And
mentioned
it
that.
reminds me of Whistle Pig.
Oh, really? Yeah.
A little, but maybe it's like the bubble gummy nose or something, like that sweeter nose. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely get what they mentioned, the white kind of fruit. You know, maybe even like a tart peach or something. Sweet oak and citrus zest. Yeah, this is good. I do like this a lot. Quite different than what we've had, that's for sure. They are expensive.
Charles, can you pass around Sherbrook bottle?
Yeah.
One more. That's a special bottle.
I still gotta pour some for people.
You said they're expensive. How expensive are they?
They're like $120, which is a lot for a younger, you know, rye. We don't know the age on this. Yeah,
I think their standard 4-year is like $80 or something like that.
yeah, we have that actually here in the shop.
Andy, $20 of that is for the custom bottle.
I bet glass is expensive now.
It is a cool bottle.
They are a cool bottle. There's a lot of glass in this bottle. It's like a big grenade, basically. We were thinking about doing a barrel at some point with Peerless. It's a big investment, obviously, because these bottles are expensive, but it would be really fun to do one at some point. They're pretty well sought after. New York State doesn't get too many of them every year. I think they get six a year for the whole state.
If you have smoked cigars, it would be really good.
In the realm of trivia, the founder went to high school with the Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
I recall from the tour.
Yep. And then he was, the father of him was the gun carrier for General Patton in the war. So he even has Patton's pistol, which is pretty amazing.
We've had something with Peerless before. It kind of reminds me of that. And with the finish, I get like a tar tobacco taste at the end. I guess if you like cigars, it must be a good combination.
It's still got that crust, though. Still that crusty, graham crackery. We have more brown sugar. Brown sugar is developing now that we do in glass. Yeah. That's.
I love the finish. It just kind of lingers. There's this beautiful taste on your mouth. Wow.
The balance is good.
Just take that over there.
Isn't that?
If you can reach it back.
14 years. All right, how are you guys doing?
Moving on.
You want me to move on? All right, I don't want to go too fast.
More water.
You guys ready to move on? Yeah, you guys all hear me? It's not too
They have
annoying being online.
with the
Yep,
bottle
all right.
there.
It's hard to do
Are we
this
too chattery?
hybrid. No, you guys are good. You guys are good. Okay, so the next two bottles, there is a store in Lexington and Louisville now, but it started in Lexington called Justin's House of Bourbon. I remember going there very shortly after they opened. I think it was 2018, so 4 years ago. And we got some single barrels that they did there. Actually, one of them was a Boone County 12-year bourbon, which you would never see that around anymore. That was a special bottle. But whenever I go to Kentucky, specifically to Lexington, I always like to pop in there. They do have a store in Louisville now, but the Lexington store is really still the place to be in terms of single barrels and talking to the people. But I always like to see what's new. I always talk to the people that work there and, you know, which single barrels. They usually have about 8 or so available. And I always like to know which ones they are kind of really proud of. You know, Holly and I here at the shop, we're proud of all of our single barrels, but you can sometimes get a little bit of a inside knowledge of, you know, which ones are better than others by talking to these people. But so these next two are both from Justin's House of Bourbon. So they're both single barrels. I'm not asking you to taste them side by side because they're going to be very different from each other. But we're starting with Pinhook. So many of us know Pinhook. Pinhook does the horse bottles. You know, we've all seen these in the stores. We actually had a Tis Rye in the shop at one point, but it wasn't this bottle. This is actually the Justin's single barrel. So there were only 205 bottles of this that they got out of the barrel that they picked. This is a 6-year rye. It is 57% ABV, so we're climbing slowly here. We're at 114.1 proof. Let's see, this is vintage 3 of the vertical series. So they do their vertical series where they have every year a new expression. And so this is vintage 3. The horse's name, they always name it after a horse. The horse is Tis Rye Time, and it's 16.1 hands tall. I always love that they do that. That's pretty cool. It's a bay colt. So there you go. Castle and Key is making a lot of the Pinhook that we're seeing these days. I'm not sure though about this 6-year. That's would be pretty old for Castle and Key. So this is most likely sourced from MGP probably. Yes, actually, it says on the back, distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So there you go.
Aren't they
Bottle-
just doing their bourbon? Isn't that the
maybe
contract?
they are just doing their bourbon, yeah. It is bottled by Castle and Key. So they are at least bottling it. But try this one out. Ooh, that one's is bright
That was a dill pickle.
on the nose.
It's fresh cut grass.
Dill pickle. It tastes lemon too.
It tastes like MGP.
Oh, wow.
Tastes like 95.5.
That's a real mint, lemony, yeah, lemony mint.
It's like, this whiskey.
But there's a little bit on the finish of like a cocoa note, I get. It's kind of cool.
I almost get like tea on the nose, like a weaker tea.
Yeah.
Tea is a good call. It's like tea all the way through. Like you get the minty, lemony, earthy tea notes.
Like an Earl, it's Earl Grey.
Yeah, there's some Earl Grey in there.
Hot toddy.
There's also.
Hot toddy. Did Ann just say hot toddy? It's like a hot toddy.
I did a hot toddy.
And man, I was gonna say, we'll come over to your house for tea if this is what you're serving.
I made
You know what?
peppermint tea for my kids. Great.
You know what's amazing so far with this tasting is that we've done 4 rye whiskeys and they are so different from each other in so many ways. I mean, if you do a bourbon tasting, it's not going to be that drastically different. I mean, they'll be different, no question, but these are like, you wouldn't even know what you're drinking on some of these, right? I mean, this is.
I honestly didn't know that you could expect. I mean, I like rye, but I didn't know you could expect this much. Like the only thing in American spirits, it's like this is kind of American single malt is like, and that's because it's so small and how many people produce it. But like, yeah, it's wild.
It's pretty cool.
I think it helps. These are all high quality.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
But as I think, other than the 2 different mash bills blended for the Sagamore, these are all pretty high rye and
Yeah,
are coming out that different.
yeah. Which
So that could speak a little bit right to the potential terroir in rye. I mean, do we know? I mean, some of the stuff is obviously MGP source. Is all of MGP's rye juice Indiana grown?
No.
no, I don't think so. I don't.
Yeah.
I think
So
you
it
can
could
actually-
be. So we don't even know where. You know, it could be from anywhere.
I think a lot of people take their own stuff to MGP. They used to, at least, probably not as much anymore, but you used to be able to bring your own stuff there.
Dickel sends their charcoal or something like that. But it raises the question of whether MGP, if they use different provenance for their grains, do they
disclose.
no, do they put them in separate barrels?
Oh,
Are they making a Wisconsin rye as opposed to an Indiana rye, or are they just
well,
sourcing
I
rye?
think, Peter, that they would do some contract distilling for people with grains from certain places.
Mhm.
And those would be, barreled specifically for those people. But I think in general, they're going for a specific type of flavor profile. So
Mhm.
I doubt that there's a lot of variation in where they're getting their rye for their basic sourcing barrels. Maybe it's
My friend works there.
maybe it's changed over time. Maybe 10 years ago, the grain was coming from one farm or one big area, and it's changed. So that could be a possibility. But
My friend works there, and he said that they have a ton of unreleased mash bills. They've done probably, he said they have like close to 100 different mash bills all aging right now. And he said that they have like one of their most recent is a 5149 malted rye. So 51 corn, 49 rye. or 1449 malted malt, and that one's supposed to be very interesting.
Yeah.
As like a bourbon.
Yeah, the you know, like when you think of Penelope, which we've had quite a bit of Penelope, you know, they go to MGP and then they taste through the different mash bills. You know, that's how they found their original 4-grain, you know, was combining and trying out different things. So MGP has a lot of different things to try. I mean, they're a massive powerhouse. There's no question. But.
That's why, Andy, oh, I think we lost, oh, he's there. You probably have seen it, but it's very industrial. So Matt, when I heard you say that, I just have a feeling that unless you have a lot of money to work with MGP, you're not really getting a say in the grain. I mean, it's pretty mass produced, but in a quality manner, like they know what they're doing. But I think it actually speaks to the grain, rye itself, kind of like barley, where, you know, there's so much variety just within the grain, regardless of where it came from, where I'm being a little bit biased, but I feel like a lot of single malt drinkers find rye a little bit more nuanced and interesting a lot of the times than bourbon, you know, something higher in corn. And I think it speaks to how cool the grain is that, you know, sometimes you get dill, which can be, you know, the pickle comment of MGP is common, but look at how different all of these MGP, you know, we don't know for sure, but probably 95.5 mash bills are. I think shows you how powerful rye as a grain is.
That's awesome. I don't really understand then. I mean, yeah, it's just market trends are market trends, but it's interesting that something so versatile with its history in the country would have fallen out of favor the way that it did for so long. Right. But, you know, anyway, glad it's back. So.
Yeah. And just like peated Scotch, I mean, it was a little bit aggressive, you know, seemed a little bit, and it's not, MGP is probably fine with it, but like a farm distillery, it's not always easy to work with. It can actually froth a lot during fermentation and it can be very sticky. And so if you were kind of new to distilling, it wasn't the easiest grain to work with either. It's a little bit finicky. It's a little bit more delicate than corn too. So I think with corn just kind of took over at the right time.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have ever thought that it was like an actual production issue, right? Like that it's like a technical problem.
It's definitely a production issue. I mean, I've heard it from many distilleries. They hate working with rye. I mean, it's a nightmare. I mean, it's a pain to clean the mash tun. It's a pain all the way around. And you know, think about it. America in general likes sweet things, right? I mean, we love sugar, we love sweet. So corn, obviously, bourbon is a sweeter product. And, you know, that's also something to think about. You know, rye doesn't work for everybody, but bourbon usually does in a lot of ways. So I'm very excited that it's back. There's no question about it. Always been a big rye fan, so we'll do many more rye tastings to come, that's for sure. Okay, so all right, guys, we're going to move on to the next
Charles,
one.
what was the price on that bottle?
So this Pinhook was 75 plus tax, so probably like low 80s, something like that. Okay, all right, so we're going to move on to actually let me grab it here. Western Reserve. I don't know how many of you have heard of Western Reserve. I really hadn't heard too much about them before. So this is also from Justin's House of Bourbon. This is an 8-year rye. So we're going up in age here. The proof on this is 115.34.
What was that? Sorry.
115.34. Even though on the bottle it says 115. Well, it's really badly written. 57.95%. That doesn't add up to 115. Yeah, who
115.9.
knows what the proof is? Actually, we looked at a bottle today that we got in the shop, and the ABV and the proof didn't match either. So I think it's pretty.
That's pretty simple math.
It's yeah, you would think times 2, right? Yeah, hold on here. My mouse keeps dying on me, and I can't pull up my notes. No.
But while you're looking, is there any regulation that, you know, from the ATF or something that you have to not drink while you're doing the proof in ABV?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So I did talk to one of the principals there at Justin's House of Bourbon, and he did say that this was one of the single barrels to get. So I have not tasted this. I'm just trying to look up a little bit of info on there.
Metallic kind of finish there. I really like that.
All right, here we go.
I like them all so far.
I get some for you.
I know.
He was actually using.
He was a vice principal. He was a teacher. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a little bit about Western Reserve. So Western Reserve Distillers is a family-owned. Hold on, guys. We're going to talk about Western Reserve. So this family-owned organic craft distillery producing award-winning class spirits in Lakewood, Ohio, which is just a few miles from Cleveland. All of our products are handcrafted in small batches with grains from Ohio farms within 150 miles of our distillery. Our mission at Western Reserve Distillers is to be known as the nation's premier organic craft distillery, where we believe taste makes a difference. The distillery at Western Reserve Distillers is a casual farm-to-table restaurant that brings together distilling, dining, and drinking, blah, 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 from the organic handcrafted spirits that are used. Blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Wow, and when it hasn't been.
All right, so they have a 6-year straight rye whiskey. So this is this 8-year single barrel, but let me see what they say about the 6-year. Yeah, so this is all their own stuff. This is not sourced. This is local Ohio rye grain, again, northern Ohio, so rye growing area. You know, anywhere north, you're going to have rye. So I've never had their products before, so this will be a first for me.
I love it.
Interesting. It's less than a % greater alcohol, but it tastes much hotter.
From the
There's a lot of
Pinhook?
mint and like iron and mint and it's floral and it has cinnamon, it has graham crackers, it has everything. It's just.
I'm getting like some berries, actually, some red fruit almost.
I'm getting like.
But, yes, Charles, I was comparing the Pinhook to the Western Reserve. But you're close.
This is good.
Which one was this? This was a new one?
That was good.
I like it.
I do too.
Yeah, I like this better than the Pinhook.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll say, for sake of continuity from the conversation room from before, I think we might go 7 for 7 on whiskeys that don't taste, that really are completely different end to end across, you know, within the same category, but across the whiskeys, which I don't think we've ever had that. I've never seen that in a bourbon tasting here. We've always at least had 1 or 2 that are similar, you know, but the notes are common, but they're arranged very differently, whiskey to whiskey.
Well said. Well said.
So I'm questioning right now whether or not this is their own product or not. I'm looking on the web online right now, and there actually is an 8-year-old Western Reserve that is from MGP. So I don't know if this is their own actual distillate or not.
Did the bottle say organic?
A good way to tell is how old is Western Reserve.
Yeah.
A lot of times they say it's their stuff, and then it's like they didn't open till.
This is MGP, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't do my homework on this one.
So where'd the organic come from?
That's what's fun about these tastings. I do my homework as we go along.
You're
I've been
supposed to be one lesson.
I've been very, very busy. I do
You're
have,
supposed to be one chapter ahead of the class.
yeah, sometimes I'm with the class.
I feel much
Checks out
better that
everything I've
it's
written.
not organic.
It's not organic. I got so excited.
Sorry to burst
It's
everybody's.
still
bubble.
delicious. It's still delicious.
But based on what Holly said before, of having to have a lot of money for them to really talk to you, we're not going to have a club tour trip to MGP soon, are we?
No. I don't think they'd allow a club. They might allow 1 or 2 of us, but you know, yeah, if we were doing a barrel maybe, but
They'll talk to you, Peter, but I don't know if they're gonna let you bring your own bag of corn.
No, especially on the outside.
Is that a reference to my humor?
I just picture you trucking in or, you know, pickup trucking in your own grains from New York State.
this one was $80 plus tax, $79.99. So not bad, right? I mean,
Oh, this is pretty good. I mean, I like the palate better than the nose, but it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the palate stood out to me. It's really flavorful.
Drink something that left after.
I think it might be their own, Charles. Maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but they were at Dave Schmier's event, and they've been around a while. They have a lot of their own stuff.
well, this one on the bottle says distilled in Indiana.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Because they might be pushing this old of whiskey, but
They have a 6-year,
mhm.
so I don't know if
It
they have
could
any.
be their own stuff, contract.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. That's possible too. I doubt it, but it's possible.
Yeah.
So what is that distinction? They gave their own mash bill to MGP as opposed to buying their barrels? I'm not sure how
Yeah, that would be,
contract distilling in that case works.
if they started out doing that with MGP, then yes, but most likely they started making their own spirit at their distillery and then just bought barrels that were already aged. You know, that's most likely the case, but I could be wrong. I mean, you never know. If they were very forward thinking, they might have done that ahead of time, but probably not, but who knows?
Looking at going to the web. You may have seen it.
I went to Alberta Distillers. I
I
don't
know,
know.
they're in Lakeview,
Hey, Dan.
Ohio.
Oh, it's right
How are
where
you?
Danny was.
Well, I had already done it.
Maybe
That's why I said I had not to do that. I know, but I figured you were coming. Don't worry about it. I mean, you don't need to. No, I don't feel like you need to.
I'm not.
Thank you. All right, you guys good with that? You ready to move on? Am I moving too fast? We did 5 whiskeys in an hour. That's pretty fast. You guys okay? You're still, all right. George, give me 2 thumbs up.
This is
All right.
a Wednesday night case.
This is a Wednesday night pace? Is that okay? It's a hump day pace? All right. Okay, so this next bottle I got in at Castle and Key. when I was there in May. So I was there last November with a few club members and some other people. And we were super excited to get a single barrel rye. It was one of those days where they were releasing a special barrel, and we were able to score at that point. But then when I went back in May this year, they had a whole bunch of these on the shelf, and I was like, "What the heck?" Like, this wasn't like some sign up online and wait in line type thing. So this is actually a single barrel. It did, I think, go pretty quickly. We just happened to be there in the morning, and we were lucky. We each bought one of these when we were there in May. But it's a beautiful bottle. This is their restoration rye, but this is a single barrel. So this isn't one of their first 3 releases. They have 3 releases right now of their regular kind of rye, which is not barrel proof. But this one is distilled or released in 2022. So the one we got last year in November, it actually said 2021 on it. So this is, definitely a different product. But this one's 59% ABV, 118.1 proof. Again, we know it's at least 3 years old.
It's 3 years old.
Bottle number 78. It's 63% rye, 17% corn, and 20% malted barley. So this is a high malted barley rye, which makes it very different.
Yeah.
Are
there any?
You're not going to find a single barrel Castle and Key anywhere but the distillery, pretty much. So we're pretty lucky to be able to try this tonight. This is not something we get in New York ever. So
it sounds strange to have 20% malted barley. Are there many whiskeys you know of that would have that sort of mash bill?
Well, there's a lot of bourbons that do.
That high in?
Yeah. Actually, both our Town Branch and our Leopold Brothers both have high malted barley percentages.
I think Kings County is too. They're like 80 corn, 20.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. I didn't know that.
But you don't
I
see.
didn't know the Town Branch has a high evaporation rate here.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Josh yet. I know he's got a stockade of it, but I think we're down to 12 bottles of Town Branch left. So
The problem is that it comes with a hole at the top. So
what's that?
the bottles come with a hole at the top. So
Yes.
I have my backup bottle.
What was your address again, Rich?
I have my backup bottle of Town Branch.
I think Josh has 12. So I think you're if you're gonna go anywhere, Peter, go to Josh's house.
I clearly don't drink enough.
So this has a lot of. I'm getting like a fruity, almost like a fruit cup.
Yeah, as soon as I smelled this one, I imagine like a sugared mango or almost like a mango creme brulee. If you could have like a creme brulee with some mango with it. But I haven't gotten a tropical note from rye other than the 10-year Whistle Pig before. So it kind of surprised me.
I actually really like this. This is really fun. It's actually pretty refreshing.
Yeah.
Everything we've had, this kind of almost cleans the palate.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be just buzzed at this point saying that, but I really think it cleans my palate.
Yeah. What's the ABV?
59.
59?
Yeah. You would never know, right?
Never know it. Never know it.
it's very sweet, and I get like cotton candy. I get that.
Yeah.
Delicious. I like it.
You get a bitter. Okay.
But no, this is not.
The nose is not great. Like, you don't get a lot out of the nose. I get more alcohol out of the nose. But the palate is.
Palate is
Oh,
great.
it's great. Yeah.
Love it.
So I'll be down there in October and November. So hopefully they have something else on the shelf. I'd love to get a single barrel bourbon. That would be awesome. So we were there, Jan, when was
Castle and Key?
2018?
I want to check. I got it.
Yeah, so Jan and I were there in 2018, and we actually got to drill into a barrel of rye, which was pretty awesome.
2019.
Was that 2019? Oh, that was 2019. Oh, yeah. 2019, sorry. So 3 years ago. It was like a week after Marianne Barnes or Eves left the distillery, but they did take us way in the back into a rick house, and we climbed up really some rickety stairs. I remember that, and it was pretty sketchy back there. I was pretty happy they allowed our group to climb up there, but we had drills in hand, and we did the full experience. They don't allow that anymore. You're not.
Really?
Oh yeah, no. That was a one in a lifetime opportunity there at Castle and Key. So I'm looking forward to getting back. They've grown a lot. They're packed with tourists now. It's a whole different ball game. And they're only open right now Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So a lot of that's because of staffing and stuff like that. But great place. You have to go. If you go to Kentucky, you have to go to Castle and Key. Period. Get a tour. You gotta go. You gotta go.
Oh, I just love this minty.
One that was malt, high malt.
Yep.
That's the beauty of having a sweet.
I have a friend who just blended Castle and Key stocks, and they did a bourbon pick.
Oh yeah.
So they started with 10 barrels, and they cut it down to 3 that they blended together, the 3 picks that they chose.
Okay.
So yeah, they released one last year that were 5-age stocks, and now they're using their 6-year.
Wow.
It's listed under the. It's listed under. It's all at Castle and Key 100%. It's their oldest stuff.
But of rye or bourbon?
Bourbon.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. They had I wasn't picked to taste it and participate because they only had a few kits. I think they had 10 people total doing the kits, but
okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, it should come out in the fall, I think.
I would love to do a barrel with them at some point. Yeah.
It's the Reddit Our Bourbon group, so it's a larger community who buy from.
Yeah.
But there's only about 30 people that actually participate.
So when I was looking up, all right, so we're going to talk about the next bottle here. So when I was looking up information on this next bottle, you know what came up first? Thanks to Holly. First Fill Spirits was the first thing in Google when you put up Nashville Barrel Co. NY1. Yeah, well, Holly does a lot of the content. So I'll read what First Fill has to say.
Whoa!
That's really all that matters.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah, so all right, hold on. Let me read this real quick. So in 2018, this is Nashville Barrel Co. We were three guys who saw where the market was headed, not enough bourbon supply, driving demand through the roof and creating impossible allocations for us and our friends to get the good whiskey that had brought us together. One of our favorite pastimes has been traveling all over the country and picking single barrels with our friends, but that memory was vanishing quickly. So we decided to do it our way and invest in our own abilities to select single barrels. We bought our first batch of barrels in 2018. Quite honestly, we did it so that we could continue the tradition of picking through good whiskey with our friends. Well, the word got out fast. People started talking about our barrels. It became so popular that friends were asking if they could pick a barrel for our stuff, February of 2020, we released our first single barrel rye, and people on social media made sure the rest was history. Soon, groups from all over the country were calling to ask to come pick a barrel for themselves. In March of 2021, it hadn't stopped, so much so that we had to open up our own distillery to house it all. And we're so glad we did, because now we get to share even more whiskey with enthusiasts. So this one is a blend of 3 barrels, all distilled at MGP with a 95.5 mash bill. This is a high proof 59.10, so 118.20 proof. 6 years old, barrel number 709. This is the only bottle that came from our shop. So we end with this one. Yes.
Charles, does that mean you have bottles in the shop?
We have, yes, we do. We have a few bottles in the shop. They are $89.99. That's the going rate on Nashville Barrel Company. And Holly is actually going there at the end of September. She's doing a Tennessee trip. She's visiting King's Family, Dickel, Nashville Barrel Company. She's going to Green River in Kentucky. She's going to New Riff. She's doing a whole bunch of stuff. She's spending a week kind of like running all over the place. A lot of driving. Tennessee mostly. We're going to do a pick with New Riff. That's going to be so New Riff is getting very difficult to do picks with now. They only do a few with people, you know, every once in a while. So we were offered one. Hard not to take a New Riff pick if we can get it. So that's the premise of her trip, but she's visiting a whole bunch of other people to develop relationships and do other stuff with as well. So we wish her the best on those crazy roads in Tennessee. I lived in Nashville for 5 years. I know how horrible it is driving around that state. So bless her soul.
Okay. Will she have a guard dog with her?
No, she's going on her own. Ooh, boy, lots of chocolate on the nose on this one. Wow.
Oh, yeah, Rochester. Oh, yeah.
Smell the alcohol.
I don't like it.
Oh, it's pretty solid.
Very chocolatey.
It's got a nice it's a heavy mouthfeel. It's not light or bright. It's kind of dense and yeah, it's got this cocoa. You know, it reminds me. Well, yeah, boy.
I don't like it.
It doesn't. It surprises me that this is a 95.5.
Just northwest.
Was the Sagamore 95.5?
No, so Sagamore combines 2 mash bills.
Yeah.
One is a high rye, one is like a 95.5, and the other's a very low. So it's like a 55, 55, 30, 15 or something like it's
okay.
Yeah,
because I was going to say this is, I mean, across the board from the 7 whiskeys, this is the closest in nose, at least I haven't tasted it yet, but to Sagamore. So you know, like, you know, it's more desserty, more bourbony, sweeter. You know,
go back and smell your first glass, your Sagamore, if you remember where it is. Just smell it. I mean, It's pretty wild. Yeah, brownies. Brownies.
Yeah, it's all chocolate, like classic, you know, what I would think of like bourbon notes.
Yeah.
You get a little bread, like kind of a bready note, yeasty note too.
Right.
Yeah, this has a very dense bourbon-like mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Which is what I thought about the Sagamore. It was like, oh, this is a rye, but it, you know, it could be a bourbon. If you asked me to guess it blind, it'd be a toss up, right? It's not classical rye, and this is similar.
This
Yeah,
is
don't
like
put
a
this in the
spicy,
advent calendar because they'll just screw it all up.
this is like a spicy Traverse City. It's like a dense, heaviness with
Well,
spice.
the word we use is rich. It's
Rich.
It's a rich rye, right?
Is heavy not good?
No, rich is, I think, better, right? I mean,
Almost like sticky mouthfeel.
Yeah.
I have an 8-year NBC barrel that tastes very similar to this. It has like the same kind of characteristics. So they must pick like a specific style or something.
It brings your gritty comment brings up a question about MGP. Do they have one single yeast they use for everything? You know?
I can't answer that, Peter. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they played around with different yeasts. I would expect that they have. I mean, they are the true, you know, experimenters, and they have been for a long time. So I don't know though. I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I know that, you know, some of the newer, larger producers who are providing sourced whiskey, they do play around with yeast. So I would assume MGP does as well.
Okay.
It's pretty good though. I like it.
I have a weird system of 1, 2.
I like ending on this one actually. It's you know, you kind of want to end on a dense, rich whiskey. So this is
This was the richest of the
Do
Wait a second.
people bring their own grain to MGP?
Apparently I can't.
Right.
I mean, you know, supposedly you can. I mean, again, I have never been there. I don't know.
I'm sure if you're big enough, you can.
Yeah, you've got to have some pretty big pockets to do that. You know, there's lots of other people making whiskey now that have actually eaten into the MGP world. You know, Bardstown Bourbon Company being one of them, and I don't, from what I remember from just being there as many times, I think it's mostly their own grain that they get, and they will do whatever mash bill you want it to be, but it's not trucking in stuff from other places. So
Yeah, I think when we were at Bardstown, they said that, you know, they buy the grain, but they'll do your mash.
yeah, they'll do whatever you want. But I don't think you're, unless you're doing really a lot of it, which is a lot of money. They're probably going to stick with what they normally use. So.
I know some beer makers have proprietary yeast, but yeast gets all over the place. You know, if you know, I bake bread and there's yeast all over my kitchen. I know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think of some of the original like yeast people that we think about are be like Four Roses. You know, they have their 8 different strains that they use, and then now we're seeing Wilderness Trail as being kind of maybe the spearhead of this whole new yeast movement, where they actually run a yeast production facility where they have 2,000 different strains of yeast, not used for whiskey. A lot of them are used for commercial products and, you know, everything from cleaners to kombucha, you name it. But they are playing around with yeast a lot more than normal people. So,
Charles, was it Castle and Key? I mean, I remember one of the distilleries saying that they basically cloned yeast from what was in the air in their old distillery that they took over. You know, they cultured it.
yeah, I don't remember where that was, Rich. I don't think that's Castle and Key though. The only time I've ever really seen that has been in mezcal, and then I've seen it in Scotch. You know, like Glenmorangie will use yeast from their fields, which are close by, so very proprietary. In Kentucky, I don't remember hearing about people using yeast that's just generally organically grown in their area, but maybe I just don't remember. But it's pretty finicky, you know. I mean, yeast is not something you play around with too much. You know, that's why most people use the basic distiller's yeast when they're doing their cooks or their ferments.
And pitch enough so that it overwhelms any volunteer yeast lying around.
Yes, right. And then it depends if it's an open top fermentation or closed top, you know. So, you know, you think about Maker's Mark and some of these other people that have open top wood fermenters. You know, there's a possibility of getting some natural yeast in the air when you do that.
When you make beer, they talk about rogue yeast. Sometimes you get some of that, and that's when you get the skunky taste.
Yeah.
Well, in lambics, you get natural yeasts, you know, that are in the brewery itself, and they just cultivate that to reinvent itself again. So
I would,
and that's what they're known. That's what they're known for. You know, that's like a big part of their process.
I don't know, not to disagree with my wife, but rather than cultivate, I think they just don't clean because they're afraid of, you know, maybe that spider web had this secret ingredient, so they don't move anything.
One of the things I found interesting when I went to Oaxaca just before the pandemic, that was my first kind of mezcal trip, and I really look forward to getting back down there again. But they had, you know, they roast the agave in the ground, so you're cooking it in the ground. That's where it gets the smoke or whatever. But then they have its natural fermentation, so they're not adding any yeast to it. It's all natural. The yeast kind of propagates on its own, and it's in there for a good while, but it creates this really thick cap, like almost hard. I mean, you can't knock on it, but it's really, really thick, and it's fascinating. You know, I'm not a bread maker to the point where I know my yeast or anything like that, but it's, you know, it's pretty cool when you can see how the natural process can take over and add to the process as well. Oh, there's a ranking there. So yeah, number two is hard to beat. That was a pretty fantastic 14-year rye. But then you like Nashville second. That's great. That's cool.
We have a 6. A 6.
But this was a pretty uniformly good taste.
This was an epic. It's one of those secret epic tastings. I tried to make it known. You know, we didn't even fill up, which is kind of crazy. This is really a pretty fantastic lineup. You know,
That means there's grams I can come to the shop and buy, right?
I always try and put together something unique and fun and what I would want to taste. And this exemplified that. I mean, I wouldn't buy these from all over the place if I didn't want to try them. So, yeah, this was a fun one. Hopefully, we have more to go. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the recording right now. I'll stay on if you want. I know it's loud in here, so you can't hear me too well. I'm sorry about that, but
Oh, it's not that bad. We can hear you.
oh, you can?
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm just going to stop the recording. We can stay on. I'm not going anywhere, but I do want to stop this. Makes it easier for uploading it.